Hello and welcome to the show. Well, the top sales out of Sydney and Melbourne were pretty close. But Sydney and Melbourne, I've got to tell you, you've been pipped to the post by Perth. Back with Kevin Brogan and all the details in just one moment.
Hi everyone, my name's Nick and I'm the Country Manager here at Beepo. We offer outsourcing services for real estate agencies that are looking to become significantly more productive and efficient. Let me give you a bit of a rundown about how our real estate team actually works. At Beepo, we have many positions to assist our clients in the real estate industry. These include sales assistants, trust accountant, marketing staff. We also have a couple of our most popular products, the property management assistants and Rock End property assistants.
Back once again, we say hello to Kevin Brogan from CoreLogic. Gee, some interesting results, Kevin, coming through. And I know we're going to talk about this, but that gap is opening between the results we're seeing out of Sydney and Melbourne.
Yeah, look, we saw a busy weekend in both of the major capitals. Sydney, the second busiest week of the year. And Melbourne returning to form in terms of auction volumes after the spring racing carnival, back up over 1,000 auctions. But as you mentioned, there is a gap that sort of opened up with Sydney returning 81% and Melbourne just over 10% behind at 70.8%.
No doubt the Melbourne results probably by the end of the week are going to dip under 70%. That does sound a bit of a cautionary note, I would have thought.
Oh, look, I think it's difficult. You can't expect clearance rates to continue increasing week after week forever. Look, by any measure, 70% is a pretty solid result. And when you consider that, this time last year, Melbourne was sitting in the mid 40% range, just to sort of put it in perspective, it is quite a strong result. But it's just interesting, and I'm sure we'll have a look at some of the sub-regions as we go through Sydney and Melbourne. You're seeing those standout sub-regions in Sydney, whereas perhaps Melbourne is, a solid performance across the board, but without those sort of real standout regions.
Well, those preliminary results, Sydney at 81%, Melbourne 70.8%, Brisbane 54.5%, Adelaide 50.7%, Perth at 22% off a low number of auctions, but still that's a low result. Canberra 74.2%, so everywhere except Perth seems to be doing reasonably well, tracking on recent results. Kevin?
Yes, look, and I think it's worth mentioning with Canberra. I mean, that's a significant number of auctions. The last couple of weeks in Canberra has seen a significant increase in the number of people taking their properties to auction. And the demand is obviously there because that's really quite a solid result coming out of Canberra with those increased numbers. As you pointed out, the clearance rate is one measure of success, and on that measure, Perth, trailing at 22%. But as you alluded to, the highest sale in the country on Saturday actually coming out of Perth.
Yeah, we'll get to that shortly. Let's firstly take you to the Sydney sub-region results. Kevin, I'd be keen to get your feedback on this, your observations.
Yeah, look, as I mentioned, there are a couple of standouts. I mean, the Northern Beaches, 94.6% preliminary clearance rates. So there were 84 auctions. We've got 55 of those results in, very, very strong. Followed pretty closely by Ryde. Also, in fact, 55 auctions of which we have 35 results in. We've seen both of those sub-regions provide strong results in the past, but they are the standouts. But it is backed up by other regions like the Inner West at 85%, and even Sutherland coming in just a shade under 80%.
Okay, well, our top sale out of Sydney coming out of Strathfield, this property at 8 Cotswold Road, $4,850,000. Bell Properties, Norman So and Michael Murphy selling this 5 better. 3 floors of living, Kevin, open plan on all levels. A beautiful northeasterly aspect for this property as well.
Yeah, look, this is an almost 700 square metre lot. It's about 15 kilometres to the west of Sydney, and we've seen a number of highest sales in Sydney coming out of Strathfield. This property was built, as you say, on 3 levels, 2007. It's quite grand in in scale. I mean, lots of chandeliers and an imposing entrance hall and a sweeping staircase. Interesting to see this property last sold for 2.85 million in 2013. And the median price in Strathfield is 2.12 million. That is down from 2.64 million in 2018. But this does remain one of those very popular locations, pretty tightly held as well.
To Melbourne now, the sub-regions there, see a lot of sevens in front of these, but you know, the west at 59, 66 out of Mornington Peninsula. So yeah, we can see why it's just tailing at 70%.
Yeah, look, that's right, Kevin. But I mean, as you pointed out, I mean, there's a number of sub-regions here with very solid mid-70s performances. But then we do just see a couple of chinks in the armour, if you like, and the west is one, and the northwest is 64.8%. But I mean, taken as a whole, it's still a solid result. But it is just interesting to see that gap widening with Sydney.
Okay, the Melbourne top sale was made in Malvern, 30 Elizabeth Street, 4,750,000, RT Edgars, James, Paul and Mark Ridgway. 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom, 4-car. A stunning family home. This one's described as year-round outdoor space, large temperature-controlled wine cellar. Once again, a really nice property, but certainly not the top sale in the country, but we'll come to that shortly. Tell us a little bit of what you see here, Kevin.
No, that's right. I mean, look, this is a generous sized block, 600 odd square metres, 10 kilometres to the southeast of Melbourne. I'm sure viewers who aren't from Melbourne will have heard of Malvern. It is one of those areas which is highly sought after. This again is a 3-storey dwelling built 2005, quite grand in scale. It did sell in 2014, in November 2014, so almost exactly 5 years ago, for 4.1 million. The median price, 2.3 million in Melbourne, and that is down from 2.6 million in 2017. So it has come down a bit. The average ownership is 13 years in Melbourne, which again is one of those measures that we perhaps use to demonstrate how tightly held it is.
Yeah, that's a very long hold, isn't it? 13 years. We see the average. What is the average around the country? Do you know? There's a question without notice.
Oh, look, absolutely. So I think with anything above 10 years does tend to suggest that it's an area where people make a sort of long-term commitment to it. Certainly there are areas with a much higher rate of turnover than that. Look, happy to take that on notice and come back to you with some data on that. I'm sure we have it.
Yeah, no doubt you would have. My gut feeling is that anything over 10 years would indicate a fairly strong family area. Where we see the higher turnover areas is in, you know, places where properties are probably renovated and turned over rather quickly. You know, some of the inner city suburbs, we have seen turnover rates as low as 3 years, which is very, very high.
Oh, look, absolutely. I mean, we certainly see that. I mean, but you're probably not going to see that in the properties that we discuss being the sort of highest sales. These generally are the properties which have got something about them which excites that competitive interest, and where better than somewhere that's difficult to sort of get into in terms of a tightly held location.
Yeah, a nice segue then to our top Brisbane sale, which comes out of Gumdale, which is a lovely acreage area, 535 Grassdale Road, 1,925,000. Remax results, Deborah Evans, her team, and Fraser Evans selling this 8-bedder now. It's an 8-bedroom property, but it's got 2 homes on it, spread over 2 homes. The main home has, I think, 5 bedrooms, and the additional renovated cottage, 3 bedrooms. Private, spacious, about 15 k's from Brisbane CBD. Nice area. This, as I said, it's on acreage as well.
Oh, absolutely. This is a hectare, and to get that within 15 kilometres at the city centre of Brisbane is quite special. And obviously, people are sort of moving to this area. I thought it was interesting to see a 123% increase in population in Gumdale over the last 5 years. This property, I mean, you mentioned spacious. It's got that 3-bedroom self-contained bungalow, but it's also got a hectare of gently sloping open land, which gives that tremendous sense of space. The home itself, the main home, was built in 2013, and the median price is 1.1 million in this area, and that's actually up 40% since 2018. And I think probably the clue about that is the fact that people are seeking to get into this area. This property last sold in 2016 for 1.57 million.
Wow. Good improvement there. Okay, and of course, as we said, the additional home, that little 3-bedroom cottage, has been recently renovated, so no doubt the sellers there spending some money on that property. We are going to come back in just one moment with Kevin Brogan from CoreLogic. I want to take you through the ACT top sale, also South Australia, and we will take you to the top sale in the country, which came out of Perth, WA. So we'll be back in just one moment.
In today's market, great ideas alone simply aren't enough, but innovative execution can hand you a real competitive advantage. Nightlight is a cutting-edge illuminated signboard by Printforce that offers round-the-clock visibility and features that maximise advertising space, improving your exposure. Buyers can now see the full picture, day or night, with Nightlight's edge-to-edge illuminated surface, which utilises environmentally friendly, scratch-resistant technology. Now available in 6x4 and 8x4. Nightlight is as versatile as you need to be in today's market. Let your clients know you're working day and night for them, and then prove it with Nightlight.
Welcome back to the show, our auction update show every Monday with the compliments of CoreLogic, and Kevin Brogan from CoreLogic joins us to give us the most up-to-date reflection of what's happened over the preceding weekend. Just a quick summary: the weighted average 72.0%, right on 72%, and a good result out of Sydney at 81%, Melbourne 70.8%. Okay, let's go to our top ACT sale. Red Hill in the ACT, 111 Endeavour Street, 2,515,000. Peter Blackshaw, Andrew Chamberlain and Dario Beltrami. My apologies there, Dario. 5 bedrooms, 2 bathroom, 2 car. Wonderful family home, generous indoor and outdoor living. Very well located in Red Hill, this one, Kevin.
Yeah, look, this is only 4 kilometres south of Parliament House, and we've reported on sales from Red Hill in the category of highest sale before. It's about 1,400 square metres of land here, but you've also got immediate access to the Red Hill Reserve. It really does have that sort of open, spacious feel, which is remarkable considering how close it is to the centre of action at Parliament House. The house was built in 1926. But has obviously been refurbished to a very high standard just much more recently. The landscape gardens are one of the main features for me, and you mentioned about the sort of combination of internal and outdoor living. It really does combine the two very well. One thing for the family purchasers, a soundproof music room may come in handy for that teenager with a drum kit. The property was last sold 13 years ago, 2006, for 1.26 million. The median house price in Red Hill is 1.4 million, which surprisingly is down a little since 2018, but only 2.4%. And looking back a little bit further than that, it's been quite a stable level of value.
Sorry about that, just getting a few urgent reminders. Yeah, the market's really taking off. Let's go to South Australia now, and we'll have a look at our top sale, which comes out of Norwood. I look forward to you telling me a little bit about Norwood. 106 William Street, 1,625,000. Steve Alexander from Clemex selling this 4-bedder. It's been described as circa 1910, a symmetrical villa. Is that a common term in South Australia?
Yeah, look, it is. This is a really fine example of that, and I think we've reported on a number of high sales from South Australia. I mean, the street appeal of the property is undeniable. It still does retain quite a lot of those period features from 1926, but as we can see, and this has become a theme, it's been extended to provide the combination of those period features, the plasterwork, it's got solid Jarrett floors, but it's also got open plan living, which opens out onto quite a generous back garden. The property actually last sold in 2018 for $1.74 million. So it has actually sold for just over $100,000 less than it did last year. Interesting to see the median house price in Norwood, which is only 3 kilometres to the east of Adelaide and is a very sort of fashionable area, with its own boutique shopping precinct. Median price $782,000. That's actually down 7% on last year, but it is the same as 2016. So there's been a little bit of up and down, but if you look over the sort of medium term, it's been pretty stable in terms of prices in Norwood.
And finally, we take you to our top sale in the country, which came out of Claremont in WA, 74 Victoria Avenue. Mark Hall Real Estate, Mark Hall and Adam Lanigan selling this 4-bedder. I've got to say that, what did we say in Perth, 22.2%, fairly slow sort of a market, but certainly not for this property. 8,050,000. What a remarkable sale, 1,518 square metres, but an absolutely fabulous home, its own beach, its own park. It's, as I said, set on over 1,500 square metres. Direct access to the boat shed, to river access that is, plus a 2-bedroom cottage. What a spectacular home. Takes out our top sale, Kevin.
Oh, look, absolutely. I mean, it just goes to show that with a property of this quality in this location, even in a market that has been reasonably soft, this is clearly a property that has excited a fair bit of attention. It's about 1,500 square metres. It's only 5 kilometres to the southwest of Perth. And it's actually on a part of the Swan River that allows it to look to the west across the Swan River. As you mentioned, it's right on the river. It looks out over Mrs. Herbert's reserve. I'm afraid I don't know Mrs. Herbert's claim to fame apart from the reserve. But it's got a beautiful open outlook. The accommodation is fantastic. Built in 1981. Clearly to take advantage of those views. I can just imagine what it's like with the setting sun. It's open plan living, really taking advantage of those views. And the property last sold in 2003 for $3.3 million. Once again, I think Claremont is sandwiched between Peppermint Grove and Dalkeith, and there's certainly a pocket there of highly desirable homes, of which this is a standout because of its sort of location and generous proportions.
Yeah, well, congratulations to the team there. A great sale. Just recapping, weighted average across the country over the weekend, 72%, Canberra at 74.2, Perth at 22.2, Adelaide 50.7, Brisbane 54.5, Melbourne 70.8, and Sydney taking out the top clearance at 81% of almost 1,000 auctions. Kevin, it's great sharing some time with you again. Thank you very much, my friend. We'll look forward to coming back on Friday and getting your take on the final results. What's your tip? What do you think it'll be like at the end of the week, mate?
Oh, look, I think the combined capital city average is likely to tip just below 70% by the time we get all the results in. But of course, the other thing we'll be reporting on is auction activity. And I think we're going to see a slight increase in activity. Be really interesting to see between now and Christmas whether there is a build-up with a fairly positive, confidence in the market and clearance rates. And of course, prices looking as if they're increasing, particularly in Melbourne. It'd be really interesting to see how much activity comes to market between now and Christmas.
The other thing too, Kevin, I think we're getting very close to that time of year when if you buy now, you might still be able to settle before Christmas under normal settlement terms. So, we're getting a bit of pressure on the market for those who want to buy and at least have a settlement and be in their new home by Christmas. So we'll just see what happens over the next few weeks.
Absolutely. Look, that sort of self-imposed deadline certainly does have an impact.
Indeed, Kevin Brogan joins us every Monday, every Friday. Kevin is from CoreLogic, of course, and that's where we get all of our results. All of our shows are powered by CoreLogic, and we thank them for their support. Kevin Brogan will join me again on Friday. We'll have a look at a final summary, and we'll look ahead for the week to tell you what auction activity. And there you heard Kevin Brogan tell you it's likely to increase, and we'll see what that final auction clearance rate is around the capital cities. Kevin, thanks again for your time. Look forward to catching up with you again later in the week.
Thanks, Kevin. Speak to you then.